Okay. Hi, Dale. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent. So good to see you again.
You too.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much looking forward to this.
Oh my gosh, me too. And two things really fast is because we have met virtually because we helped to record Day of the Dog, the virtual showcase
Hmm.
webinar.
Hmm.
And that is in the, what do they say in the movie business? It's in the can. So we have like
Right.
one or two more edits to do. Turned out to be 4 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
with
Nice.
breaks, et cetera, we have 11 speakers, 11. We have, those four topics that people will have to stay tuned. Now, your topic with Sam White is, oh gosh, how did we say it? Oh, for the good of the dog, don't be such a human.
Right. Yeah.
Love that title. Love that title. But what
Yeah.
brings us
Yeah.
here today is you are our first, and I am going to hold this up, our first in our book club, which is called In Other Words. And
Nice.
you, dear Dale, you are absolutely the first, and I could not be happier for this. And I am saying that here, let me do some technical stuff, okay? And
Yeah.
this is what you have done is you have created a survival guide, memoir, and a dog training manual. Dale,
All wrapped up in one.
Dale, I read this book and I was so pleasantly surprised. I'm telling you, I literally got chills right
Oh,
now.
wow. Nice. Yeah.
It was so much, and forgive me for saying this because I'm a bibliophile. I read constantly. I'm a book junkie, and I still
I
read.
love books too.
I still read
Yeah.
hardback or
Yeah.
paperbacks, however they will come. And this book so surprised me, and I love to be able to say that because I think that we have a fascination with books, information, etc. And how do we read that and then translate that? So what I'm questioning is today, I'm questioning really, can I ask you your reason for writing this book?
Sure. Um, it's called Raising the Worst Dog Ever, and it's about me and my dog Wiley, who was the best worst dog ever. I've had a couple of people saying, "Is it really the dog?" It's like, no. It starts out she's the worst dog, and then she turns into the best dog. So it's about my relationship with her. She was the one dog really that came into my life kind of a little bit later in life and really totally just turned everything around. And it was through her that I started to go back and think about all my relationships with dogs and how they really shaped my life and my upbringing when I was young. So I have been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. It's something that I was in the closet about for a long time because, I mean, when you think about depression, at least me, I thought, weakness and, all that stuff. And I've never portrayed myself that way. It's like I was living like two lives, it's that dual thing,
Mm-hmm.
And but with when Wiley died in 2014, that just, I mean, it just threw me for a big loop. And it made me sort of re-examine everything and my relationship with her in particular. And so I decided to honor her life and her life with me by writing this book. And I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a unique book. I haven't seen any other books that combine a memoir, which has got some fun stuff, some deep stuff, some really, really funny stuff, I think,
Yeah.
and some, heart touching stuff as well. And combining that with a training manual that is practical and contains instructions for people trying to live with these kinds of dogs or any kind of dog, really. Because she, looking back, she was not an unusual dog. She was just a high-spirited Labrador Retriever. So yeah, so I decided to write her story, and it just evolved from there.
It very much evolved from there, because now let me ask, were you a trainer at the time that you
No.
that Wiley was raising you is kind of the almost
yes.
right.
Oh yes, that's exactly what happened. And you'll find that a lot of us, especially that come to training as a second career in life, ended up coming to training that way. We had this dog and we didn't know what to do with it. And so we learned, and it was like, well, maybe I can help other people do this, you know? So, so a lot of us come to training that way as a second career. I think Wiley was special. Of course, we all think
it so much happens. I can't even think of a time when it hasn't happened. When I've asked somebody, how did you get into, animal welfare, animal training, etc., and then they say, let me tell you about my dog. Let me tell you about my horse, cat, rat. So it starts with a who, not with a what. I have found.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And the most beautiful thing I ever heard was from my friend Bob up in San Luis Obispo. And he and I have known each other since high school. So it's been a while. And he said to me, he had a dog. And I went, you're not a dog person. You're in your 60s. I've never seen you with a dog. Tell me about her. Here's what he said. She made me a dog person.
How nice is that?
I know. I can barely, get through without tearing up. But it was adorable because he lives in fire country, as we call it here in California. And so on her collar, because, they have to be collared in the area just because of certain things. And on that collar, because everything, all the tags and everything kind of wore off and whatever, he had a shipping tag wrapped around her collar with a Sharpie with her name and his phone number, because everything would go away. But I mean, that's a dog lover. That is a dog lover that said, no matter what, I mean, they would encounter cougar and mountain lion and things like that here. California hills. And so, but to have this big shipping tag hanging around her neck, but it was the best thing that he could do. It was the
and it worked. So
Yep. And there you go. So that's what I found here in the book. Practicality. It is so practical. So let me put up this banner, because I really believe this, and I don't know who first said it, but it's been said to me quite a few times. The study of behavior is the study of one.
Mm-hmm. You have to work with the dog that's in front of you.
Oh, good one. Yeah, go ahead. Go on.
Yeah. So many people think that they can fit their dogs into a box, and we get this all the time as trainers. We'll get called and we'll go in and they'll say, well, my last dog never did this, and my last dog did this, and my last dog did this. And it's like, this is not your last dog. This is your new dog. This is a whole different ball of wax here. So, and people want to draw those comparisons and to try and, I guess, explain behavior, or to try and, I don't know. It's like, well, it's not my failing because my other dog was okay, and now this one is this anomaly, and it's nobody's failing. It's just a different being in front of you. So they're sentient beings that have personalities, and different genetic tendencies based on breed. They're individuals. So when you talk about Labrador Retrievers are my breed, people think they get a lab and the lab is automatically going to retrieve. Some do, a lot do, but some are not interested in it. It's like, well, how did I get a lab that doesn't want to swim? Okay, that's another one. It's like, that's but there are those, individuals that, don't fit the what we think of as that breed. So, or on the another end of the spectrum, somebody will get like a beagle, and then they wonder why their son is so disappointed because the beagle won't play fetch. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, beagles just want to put their noses down on the ground and sniff around. They don't want to retrieve a ball back and forth, you know? So you have to work with what you've got based on the personality of the dog, the genetics of the dog, and you know, the upbringing of the dog, basically. So yeah.
All of the above. All of the above. And let me say, without you know, disparaging anything or anybody or any technique, but what I find too, sometimes our trainers are locked in to one way.
Oh yes, very much so. Yeah, yeah. It's like, and you know, you can blame some of that on the education, because some places will teach one way to do something.
Yes.
And not give you any kind of, oh, well, if this doesn't work, then try this and then. So, depending on where they got their education, if they got any education, because that's the other thing, you know, dog training is an unregulated industry in this country. So, buyer beware.
Yeah.
Run away from anybody that says they can guarantee behavior, because that is not true. Yeah. And run away from anybody that doesn't want to use food as rewards, because that's also science-based.
Please tell us about that, because I'm back and forth on that. So and what you explained in here is it's their nature. And tell us about, look at what I've done. Can you see all my posts?
Oh, wow.
I'm serious.
Awesome.
I devoured this book, and look at, not only did it, but I dog-eared a couple of pages. So, but
perfect.
Talk about, actually, here's what I want to read, literally from page 143. It's talking about seek and fear. Okay, so seek and fear, and it says these two systems are mutually exclusive. When one is turned on, the other is turned off. If you turn on seek, you turn off fear. Using food turns on the seek system and therefore has the power to turn off the fear system. Simple. You wrote all that. Tell us more.
That's from Temple Grandin. Do you know who Temple Grandin is? Yeah.
No, tell us.
Oh, she's
I do,
amazing.
but the whole audience does. Tell us.
Dr. Temple Grandin, I guess she's probably in her 60s now, but and she's very, very well known in the autistic community. She is autistic herself, and was raised in the 50s. And in the 50s, you know, what did they want to do with severely autistic children is institutionalize them, but her mom said no. And so she was raised in her home, and they worked with her and tried basically everything, because there was nothing available back then. But everybody, you know, told her parents that she was going to be very limited and blah, blah, blah. Well, she's Dr. Temple Grandin now, so maybe not so limited. And and she's got a few books out, but she's the one that first quoted this seek and fear thing. And her major area of study was farm animals. And so she's single-handedly responsible for the redesign of over half of the slaughterhouse facilities in the United States for the more humane treatment of the animals. So she's done incredible work. She has a few books out. Animals in Translation is one. Yeah. And they just give you really, really good insight into the mind of the animal. And she draws a lot of parallels to her own autistic experience. So that's a really, really interesting piece of that. And for anybody who would like to know more about her, there's an HBO movie out called Temple Grandin, and it stars Claire Danes, and it is so good. I just recommend everybody watch it. It's going to give you a lot of insight into the mind of a dog. Like, it's just so good. It's so good.
And what I found from that book was into the mind of someone who has autism.
Yes, absolutely.
It rocked my world. So please continue, because it's fascinating. Seek fear.
So she's the one that first defined the seek fear thing. And it's the olfactory system in a dog is something that we can barely even imagine, because it's so strong in a dog. So it's hard for us to even picture what their world seems like, because for us, we rely mostly on sight. them sight is a very, very secondary, tertiary kind of what do you call that? Sense.
Well, but it's not as important to survival. Is that correct too? It's not.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, there's a reason for it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's absolutely a reason for it, and but we underutilize that a lot in just our lives with our dogs. But that system, when it's seeking for food, it's sniffing, that olfactory thing is going on, then fear, and it can be momentarily. It doesn't mean it turns off for like 10 minutes. It's an on-off switch. So a good illustration of this is we used to say to people when the dog was not, kind of aggressive or, weren't sure about it, give it a piece of food. Right here, have some food. And the dog would take the food, and you try and win over the dog that way, right? Give the food like this.
Old school.
Well,
old school, yeah,
old school. Because what would happen, and it took a long time I guess, for people to figure this out, and some people still don't get it, but or don't know, because I mean, you only know what you know. Is when you present that food, that seek system turns on. So the fear that's behind the aggression is turned off. So the dog is like, oh, and it's almost like it screws up enough courage to come and get the food. Once it eats the food and the food is gone from that hand, instantaneously that fear can turn right back on, and all of a sudden you'll get a chomp to the hand. So, and people will wonder, well, why did you bite me if I just gave you a piece of food? And it's got nothing to do with that. It's that seek fear thing that's turning on and off. And I saw that happen once doing some volunteer work with one of the shelters up here, and just to see that, it was like it was like a switch. It was like, okay, here I come. Oh yes, I'll take your food, and then bam, and then retreat, because of course the dog's scared. So so it's pretty powerful. But by using food, you can overcome a lot of that fear.
Is it okay? Let me interrupt you for a second. Is it okay to go ahead and drop the food near you? Does it have to be hand fed? Because again, my population.
I never hand feed. I don't hand feed.
All right, so
no, that's what I mean. You don't hand feed, because you run the risk of that bite. So it's like, no.
And even if not that dog, the next one, because now you smell like meat, your fingertips. So
right.
So what do you do? How do you do that? I tell people, get very good at tossing, get very good at dropping, whatever. So tell us, how do you do it?
My favorite when I'm working with a fearful dog is to either work protected contact, so with a barrier behind a gate, that kind of thing. So you're not running the risk of, getting into trouble with a dog you don't know, but is to throw the food behind the dog.
Okay. Tell us why.
By doing that, the dog gets to increase the distance from you.
Oh.
And so you're taking down the social pressure. I'm not going to pressure you to come close to me for food. I'm going to give you even more space and give you chicken, and you're going to go and you get to relieve that social pressure by moving away from me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that was Suzanne Clothier that first came up with that. It's called, or Ian Dunbar, one of the two. It's called
Suzanne Clothier?
Yeah, Suzanne. Yeah. Or Ian Dunbar. One of the two. I can't remember which one it is. And it's called, the protocol is called Treat Retreat.
Retreat. And who's the other one that you mentioned? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Ian Dunbar.
Oh, Ian Dunbar, Dr. Dunbar, founder of APDT. Okay, Association of Professional Dog Trainers. Okay, cool, very cool.
Yeah. Right, so you take off the social pressure by tossing it behind them, and let them close the gap, because they will. You'll toss behind, they'll go eat it, they'll come back to you a little, and then you toss behind, they'll come back. And each time they'll come back a little closer to you, because they're thinking, oh, this person's kind of nice. But you're putting absolutely no pressure on them whatsoever. Absolutely none. It's up to them. Yeah,
Okay,
it's powerful protocol.
sounds like it. Sounds fabulous. So you said that's one. Is there anything about them turning their backs to us and leaving? Is there anything in that, tossing behind? Why not toss
I
to the
think
side?
I think it may. I think it may, but I think it's the fact that they get to increase the distance.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that's what is really powerful.
Yeah, okay, because with fearful horses, we used to literally, allow them to look, smell, snort, lower their head, whatever they need to do, and then circle. So we would circle them. They don't have to circle the scary object, but we take them a little, a few paces away, and then we circle them so that every part of the body was exposed to the scary thing. And then you find that, the next circle can be a little closer. So that's very old school, but I was raised with horses by myself, basically. So again, they taught me. Another are we complete on that idea? Because I love it. Is there anything else?
Oh God, well, there's so much to talk about, but that's the general gist of it, So yeah, but that I really encourage anybody to do some more research on Temple Grandin, because she's done amazing things in the animal world. So
I love that. I love that. And I love, I make those flower essences and homeopathic remedies, and we're so privileged to be able to work with slaughterhouse rescues. So, I mean, they're still out there. I hate to say it, but I mean, I don't know if you got it. Well, you haven't quite yet met our friend Glenn Pierce from National Mill Dog Rescue, but I'm also with the Soy Foundation and all kinds of dogs coming in from Asia and South America, et cetera, that are caged slaughterhouse animals. But also here in the United States, the General Barn. They have 3 locations now, I do believe, and they rescue cows and chickens and turkeys and all kinds of people. But there's a different set of behavioral rules, if that's possible to say, when they do come in from slaughterhouse rescue.
Oh, I'm sure it's just like feral dogs, right?
Yes, it is. And what, just a quick shout out to ideas of that is that when I study these things, a lot of times we don't have the canine studies, but we might have the human studies. And so I was researching, because they asked me to help research animals, Beagle Freedom Project, beagles coming out, but also while they're still being used for experiments for tobacco and cosmetics right here in the United States. Giving it a terrible shout out, but it is true. We still do that. And beagles, because they're small and docile. And that's why they love the beagles in the research labs. So then we've got the mice, et cetera. But what I heard years ago, was the witness to someone else's pain is greater in the witness. The pain in the witness is greater than the person undergoing the actual pain.
Gee, that's really interesting.
It is. Yeah. And it's been proven, with the electrode,
right.
Whatever, but also the heart center. And so we talk about bullying. Bullying is not it's not a one victim crime. Bullying affects everybody who is witnessing, and sometimes they suffer more. So please go ahead and say what you were going to.
Well, that's really interesting, because I think of chapter 1 in my book.
Yeah, tell us. What is it?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a really violent household as a child, and I had to witness it all, so it's that you kind of rung a bell there, because I don't know if it's true that, it's worse for me than it was for my mom. I have no way of knowing that, but there's an added element of powerlessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That and guilt, in humans,
yes.
that goes along with that. So, it doesn't surprise me that would carry over into the dog world. I mean, they're amazing creatures. So, yeah. But then, you get other dogs that are totally unaffected, like, we're talking about grieving and, people who have multiple dogs in the house, and one of the dogs passes away. And one dog, may have a really hard time. And I've heard stories of this one dog wouldn't come into the living room and stay with dad anymore. He'd sleep out in the kitchen at this one spot. And it wasn't until he figured out that the dead dog's collar was in the drawer and he was sleeping right below the drawer. Wow. And it was like, oh yeah. So, I mean, incredible depth of grief. And then other dogs couldn't carry that.
Yeah.
They just like, oh, let's just move right on.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. It's weird.
And what we're going through now, you know, as a nation, as a world, you know, we have not even started to see the stress that's going to be after this trauma. And again, in the industry that you and I are in, animal welfare, no matter which branch you're hanging on, but in animal welfare, we have a out of this world statistics on secondary traumatic stress disorder. So it's STSD. That means we have witnessed, we have not been the recipient of the trauma per se, but we have been secondary. We have been standing there. We are present when it happens. So that goes back to that other research that they are doing about bullying and witness, etc. I cannot believe we have already gone. Oh my gosh, we've already gone for 27 minutes.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I had to check 3 watches to make sure.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? Ah, there you are. There you are. Here we go. Dueling.
There it is.
Dueling. It is. Oh my God. Oh my God. We deeply scratched some surfaces, but we've got
barely.
We have to do this again now, really fast.
Sure.
Really fast, because we have this banner. If you know, in a perfect world, if you had 1, 2, 3, what can be common goals? What can be a common relationship?
Well, we touched on it before. Understand that your dog is an individual. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like every other dog. Maybe some ways yes, some ways no. But your dog is always going to be special to you. Understand that everything's based on relationship.
Okay.
It's not, you know, master slave and, you know, dominance and all that. It's a give and take relationship. It's your friend that you're trying to raise and live with here. So it's really important to maintain that balance and to think about, you know, how you're treating your animal. Are you giving your animal enough time? And what you're doing with that time. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. You can provide enrichment. There's so many ways to build a great relationship with your dog. Mm-hmm. And the dog asks so little of us, really, and gives back so much. So
very, very good.
Yeah. One last, you know, the other thing, one more thing. Get away from this, you know, your training goals, you know, the sit down, but secondary to relationship. Absolutely. If you've got the relationship, that will come.
Yeah. And I always say, what's your play? What's your play? What do you want to do? The best rides I ever had on a horse, first rides, and I've started about a dozen horses, but the first ride, it's like, where do you want to go? Because I got nothing. I got nothing. I cannot, you don't have a bit in your mouth. I don't have, you know, you got nothing. So where are we going to go? And I would restrict the environment to 80 feet in either direction. You know,
but it's up to you. Yeah.
It is. So here we go. One last piece, 1 minute, your best overall advice, idea, technique, or tool. One thing, one takeaway.
If I'm going to teach one thing that I love the most, is targeting, a hand target. Okay. So I teach the dog to target my hand, and then I can move my hand around the dog, say touch or bump or whatever you want to use for a cue, but target that hand. And, you know, at first people say, well, what good is that? And it's like touching your hand, but you can move your dog through space anywhere with a touch. I can get my dog off a couch. I can get my dog into the car. I can help with healing. I can, you know, loose walking. I can do so many things with that simple behavior. It's incredible. So it's super, super good to teach.
You are incredible. Dale Ward. Oh my God. I looked you up online. You are all over the place. So people.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, people can get in touch, and we will add something in the comment section at this live Facebook and give you all those details. Dale, thank you so much. We've got to do part 2. We have to, okay?
Oh, sure, absolutely, absolutely. I really enjoyed it, Meg.
We will. Take care. Bye, hon.
Bye.